Hi readers and writers, I'm back to help you with your gums work for the week. You didn't have a whole lot of time in class, so I thought I would just take a few minutes of your time to talk to you a little bit more about subjects, verbs, and how to code sentences. So, in your Easy Grammar books this week, the focus is on compound subjects, compound verbs, and compound objects of prepositions. So I wanted to show you some examples and get you thinking about how understanding the structure of a sentence and understanding the function of different parts of speech adds to the overall effectiveness of a good sentence. So the first thing I want to talk to you about are helping verbs. Those are found in your Easy Grammar book. And if you'll notice when you look at the assignment overview for the week, I've added memorizing the list of the list of helping verbs as another way for you to get extra credit. Now, the helping verbs look like this. This is the grade 6 book, but it looks very similar in the 5th grade book. It's a shorter list. Now, I personally think that this would be very helpful to you if you were to memorize this list. These are verbs that they do just what they say. They help the main verb in the sentence. And so it's easy to understand their function. They help. So you might want to consider memorizing that list, because when you are coding a sentence for a verb phrase, you're definitely going to want to know which verbs are the main verbs, which usually show action, and which verbs are the helping verbs. So you're gonna need to pay attention to that. The sentence that I wanted to show you is the sentence that I introduced you to last week from one of my favorite books, Jellies. And the sentence is, sea turtles, dolphins, and whale sharks would try to eat you. In this sentence, it's a verb phrase, and the verb phrase is would try. Try is the main verb, and would is the helping verb. And together, those two words function as a verb phrase. The other part of your work this week, as I mentioned before, is to be identifying compounds. Now, compounds, you probably have heard compound words before, like snowman or birdhouse. Those are two words that work together. Similar idea when we're talking about compound subjects or compound verbs. Sometimes the subject is made up of one or more things. Let's go back to this sentence that I just showed you. In this sentence, the subject, and we know that the subject is who or what the sentence is about. In this sentence, the subject isn't just one thing, it's three things: sea turtles, dolphins, and whale sharks. So that is an example of a compound subject. A compound verb is when there are two or more verbs. And remember that your main verb, is not going to be part of an infinitive. So you're going to need to keep that in mind. This is the other example from the book from last week. The sentence was, food might pass by you and get caught in your tentacles. And this sentence has a compound verb. The first part of the verb is might pass, and here's another great example. The main verb is the action verb pass, and it has a helping verb, might. So the verb phrase is might pass. But then we have another verb, get. So it's actually a compound verb in that sentence. So there's two verbs in that sentence. That's an example of a compound verb. The other compound that we're going to be talking about is the compound object of a preposition. When you're talking about a prepositional phrase, remember it always begins with one of those small words, prepositions, and it ends with a noun or pronoun. So if we're thinking about compounds again, your prepositional phrase has more than one object. It has more than one noun. I couldn't find any examples in my Jellies book, so I started looking in this book right here that you're very familiar with, and I found an example. So if you have your book, oh dear, I lost it. I found it. If you have your book, I want you to open up to page 59. I'm going to show it to you right here. It's right beneath where I have highlighted. It starts with my notebook. Here's what it says. My notebooks are filled with dialogue, snatches of talk or arguments between strangers, relatives, and friends. Now this sentence is cool because two of the prepositional phrases contain compounds. The first prepositional phrase, with dialogue, there's only one object. With is the preposition and the object, with what? With dialogue. But the next one, of talk or arguments, is an example of a prepositional phrase with two objects. Of talk or arguments. Do you see it? Talk or arguments is compound. And then the last prepositional phrase, between strangers, relatives, and friends, there are three objects in that prepositional phrase. It's kind of fun. So, one of the things that I want to encourage you this week is I want you to become a grammar detective. When you are reading in your books, or when you are reading in your AOW, or when you are reading in your All Writer's Notebook, I want you to be on the lookout for cool sentences where you can say, aha, there's a compound subject, or aha, there's a compound verb, or aha, there's a compound object of a preposition. So be on the lookout for that. You might even play I Spy with someone, where you have the page opened and you look for an example and you say to your partner or to your mom, I spy a sentence with two prepositional phrases and a compound subject, and see if they can find it. It's a fun way to play with grammar, but it's also a fun way to show how you understand parts of speech and how they work in sentences. So I hope you have fun with that. I also want to show you in your AOW this week, part of your homework is to find a sentence that you can code. And remember, when you're coding, it's showing that you understand the structure. And so far, we're only coding subject, which is who or what the sentence is about, the verb, the main verb and the helping verb, and then infinitive phrases or prepositional phrases. Those are the only things I want you to worry about right now. I want you to find a sentence where you can code it the best you can, and it needs to at least have a prepositional phrase. Now this week, I want you to find your sentence in your article of the week. I want to remind you how I showed you with my article how I identified the sentence. Oops, it's over on this side. Here we go, right here. And how I coded it. And for you, I've circled the sentence for you. I'd like you to try to remember to do that for me. Oh dear, those cats are fighting again. I underlined the subject, daring and skilled artists. The verb is made, and then there are two prepositional phrases, for those and from the battlefront. So I've coded that one for you. This is how I would like you to do it in your article of the week too. And I also want to show your parents, I'm going to scan this for you and put it on Edline, but look at all of the ways that I showed my thinking as I read this article. Now, I don't expect your AOWs to look like mine, but I want you to take your time. I've given you a very short piece of text this week so that you have the opportunity to really slow down and think about what you're reading. You might even read it a couple of times before you begin coding, going back and marking and writing down what that article or what those sentences made you think about. I hope you have fun and I hope you enjoy the text for this week. It's much different than last week. It's a little bit lighter. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have a good week and I'll see you on Tuesday. Happy Labor Day.